Hello and welcome. My name is Thomas Kevin Dolan, and I'm the writer and author of Little Fag, A Journey of Self-Acceptance and Healing. And today I'm going to read Chapter 3. The title is To Protect or Conceal. It begins on page 146 of my memoir. For months, I've been trying to tell my wife I didn't want to be married to her. It seemed far easier to blame the marriage than tell her the truth about myself. She was so sure of our love, so secure within our life together. She didn't once suspect what I braved. It surprised me that few people wanted to know the reason I married my wife. For those who asked at the time, I offered this. I wanted to be normal and straight. I loved her. We were best friends. We had fun together. I was searching for the Canadian dream. And as a gay man, I felt I could never have it. Clearly, I was willing to deny who I really was in exchange for the dream. Consider the media hype of today, touting celebratory strides forward for the two-spirit LGBTQAI+ community and all the rights that we now have. But in 1984 and the years leading up to my marriage, none of that existed. None that I was brave enough to search for resources. But I sensed not many of them were available. I chose to brush my secret under the rug. I was one of thousands of gay men who felt forced, shamed, and belief poisoned to do the right thing. Marry a heterosexual woman, even though you knew you were gay. Perhaps you haven't lived and breathed sexual orientation confusion. I'm hoping your family or even your culture didn't launch you into feeling gay shame. I'd trade all my sleepless nights wishing I could pray the gay away for one moment of being able to embrace my truth, that of being a gay man. Instead, mine was a road to heterosexual matrimony instead of embracing my truth. None of what I considered was ever black and white. Stacked against me were my Catholic faith, family expectations related to the arena of masculinity and sport, the omnipresence of shadowed shame, and the tortured reminder in insidious ways of gay being such a dirty word. The parish priest had no idea he was speaking directly to me from the pulpit when he blasted, "All gays will go to hell." My brother's language for gay haunted my heart. Queers, gearboxes, pansies, faggots. Even mom and dad chimed in when they told me the future they looked forward to. You'll marry a beautiful woman and have lots of kids. They were all my enemies, and silence me they did. It wasn't until long into my healing that I discovered the life lessons from which this chosen path. Once I discovered the degree to which I was willing to disappear, I was then able to stop doing the right thing based on what my family thought was normal. I would learn that at the heart of my willingness to disappear was an attempt of self-preservation. I longed to fit in. This consciously unconscious denial of my true self led to years of habitual, inauthentic living. At its core was a belief that I had no other choice. What I braved through a commitment of self-compassion was to understand why I married a cisgender straight woman. I'd philosophically arrive at knowing that sometimes it takes time to live the life you're meant to live. It became clear that the experiences I had and the people I embraced were all meant for me. Their gifts landed me knowing that finally I had the courage, maturity, and confidence to accept the truth of who I am, and more importantly, that the false truth of pretending to be somebody I wasn't. There was also the day I discovered that authentic, even true, freedom comes from trusting yourself enough to be yourself. The unlearning. Before closing our eyes at the end of our day, my husband and I have this lovely ritual. We take the time to ask each other questions about our day, our life, our feelings, our fantasies, and our dreams. Last night, he gently asked, "What are your two greatest superhero strengths?" Without hesitation, the word love leaped from my lips. The second word was clarity. As I drifted off to sleep, I began to giggle to myself. How is it that love and clarity have burbled to the top of my strengths list? Unwittingly, the world chased away the love I really wanted, and from a cloud of constant confusion, there was little satisfaction connected to most parts of my life. Clearly, the opposite energies of love and clarity ran my life for 3 decades. Thankfully, I hadn't a clue. As I closed my eyes, I quietly whispered to my higher self, "Thank you. Regardless of how the world wanted me to love and how it rewarded me for my confusion, you never let go of the clarity to help me embrace love." And because I was a reflection of the qualities my family embraced, unknowingly, of course, there was no shortage of love or confusion. It was a dynamic that was always saddled with the belief that the universe was unfair. Confusion was the fuel that kept all the secrets intact. As long as there was no semblance of order, no sense of what our story was, we'd always be encouraged not to know. It was difficult to find my way in the darkness of confusion. I might have been the only Dolan who asked, why? Much of what I witnessed made little sense, and curiosity was part of my nature. For the thousands of times I asked why about something, I always received the same answer, 'cause. The dialogue wasn't a Dolan value, nor a strength. I was the neighborhood babysitter. At one point in time, 5 families used my services. I loved being depended on. What I didn't like about my part-time gigs, the most uncomfortable aspects of looking after my neighbors' kids, were the questions asked of me about my family and what went on inside my home. I didn't know that the world could see. I didn't know the world could see our confusion. I didn't know if I could see all the ways we hated each other and we hated the world. I had no idea how powerful love could be. I had no idea how to move away from the endless confusion that became my family's way of living. Nothing was clear in my life. Yet through this constant haze, inclusive of a dysfunctional sense of love and a layer of confusion that was palpable, the opposite of both of these energies must have been at work. I wondered if the opposite energies of love and confusion walked beside me my whole life. Could the Dolans have been my kryptonite that kept love and clarity at bay? As I move into the autumn of my life, the unlearning for me becomes more apparent relative to the strength and power connected to love and clarity. My heart leads my life from a place of love, and the clarity of knowing what serves me and doesn't serve me is also readily available. I'm reminded of the wisdom of Rumi, who shares from the guest house, "Be grateful for whoever comes because each has been sent as a guide from beyond." I proudly embrace the divine love and clarity awake in my life and also acknowledge the presence of their diabolical twins, hate and confusion. There, but by the grace of God, there go I. I often share with clients whom I'm coaching who land on this dynamic called confusion that there is some semblance of reasoning behind how it is that they might be feeling confusion. And usually they offer or respond back with more confusion. And it took me a long time to learn this lesson that I attempt to explain to them. And it's the purpose behind confusion. And it's what I discovered as I got clearer and clearer through my own self-love. And it was that confusion allowed me to see that I didn't know. But the moment I could acknowledge that I was confused, and this is the lesson that I continue to remind myself today, but also hand with tremendous respect to my clients, and it's this notion of, could confusion be with you today? Could you be having this moment of confusion only to notice the confusion? And usually there's this blankness, this quietness within the session. And sometimes a client will go, oh, I never thought that the moment I land on being confused, I'm no longer confused. I'm clear about something. And most is, I'm clear about being confused. And then the encouragement is, can you be okay with being confused? Because if it's a teacher from beyond, as Rumi says, what does this state of confusion have to offer? What's tucked into it? And of course, the first idea is to be with confusion, right? Experience it there. It's one of the feelings or emotions that we have that we want to push away. But the moment we chase away a feeling or an emotion, we can't learn from it. So the first bit in my invitation to a client is, can we stop the session for a moment? And I usually invite them to close their eyes, take a breath that works for them, and just feel, kind of welcome confusion. And after a couple of moments of doing that, I check in with them and say, so how is the energy of what you named as confusion, how is it now? And they usually say to me, it's gone. And I said, great. Take another breath. And let's just sit with it for a second. And I usually ask, have you ever done that before? Have you ever welcomed confusion? They go, no. And they usually say, because I think it's actually not a great thing to sit with. I said, okay, good. So what do you know that's truer now? And they say that by sitting with confusion, it eventually dissipated. It some say vanished, or it's lessened. And oftentimes, and sometimes it's not in the same session. But sometimes if it is, and they get a sense of that visitor from beyond, as Rumi says, if confusion came to teach them something, what would it be? And often clients will say to me, it's to be okay being confused, to stop judging confusion as being something that's wrong with me, to be okay with being confused, because ultimately it's going to pass. And some say, oh, it's just for me to recognize that I actually do know what's going on for me in this moment. That confusion allows me some clarity. Confusion allows me to notice that, oh, I'm confused, and to welcome it as a friend. So to bring it back to me, I lived so long in this state of confusion, not ever welcoming it, not ever welcoming it. And when I began to welcome it with some support, I began to realize that it, at times, as it showed up, was there for me to begin to be comfortable with how I felt and begin to listen to and mine that feeling for what the lesson might be in terms of why it is that confusion arrived. I knew how it arrived. I knew the sensations of my body, but I never knew why. I never gave myself an opportunity to welcome it, let it pass, and then eventually say to this energy of confusion that was now gone, what lesson did you have for me? And as I sat down after church in August of 1988 to come out to my wife, the confusion whispered to me that you're so clear about this commitment to honor yourself, that you'll be safe, that you'll be held, and that life will be okay. My work was to trust the confusion that usually would move me away from wanting to do the thing that I really wanted to do. No, you're confused, you're scared, and then of course the spiral, right? But in this particular case, the confusion was pretty apparent. Right at the time, I was a married man. And when I allowed it, and I don't know how I did it at that time because it was pretty scary, but when I allowed it to pass, what I heard from confusion that day, that evening, sitting, looking at my wife's face, was that I would be okay, that I would be safe, that I would be taken care of. So, welcoming confusion takes a lot of courage, but it also provides a clarity on how you're feeling. Wow, I'm confused. Whew. It's a gift. And it's one that I constantly will actually remember.